Good evening and welcome to tonight's meeting, the first meeting of 2018 of the Fort Wayne Community School Board of Trustees. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And roll call of members. Steve?
Good evening, Steve Corona from the 5th District.
Good evening, Glenna Yale from the 2nd District.
Good evening, Maria Norman, Member at Large.
Ann Duff, Member at Large.
I'm Julie Hollingsworth, elected from District 1, and Tom Smith and Jordan Levenoff are not able to be with us tonight. Maybe they're watching on TV, online, I mean. And to my far left is Janet Doherty. Good evening. Clerk of the Board. And our Superintendent, Dr. Wendy Robinson. Good evening. Good evening. So the first item on the 2018 agenda is election of officers of the board. So do we have a nomination?
I'd like to move that we elect Julie Hollingsworth as president.
Second.
And I would like to nominate Steve Corona as vice president.
Second.
Okay. And I'll nominate Ann Duff as secretary.
Second.
Okay. Any other nominations or comments? Okay, all those in favor of that slate of officers signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. That brings us to the consent agenda, and these are items that come to us on a recurring nature. Every meeting, we approve minutes from the previous meeting, in this case, December 11th and December 18th. Vouchers and payroll, vouchers ending December 25th of 2017, and payroll for the periods ending November 24th and December 8th, 2017. And the personnel report, and Dr. Robinson, was there anything on the personnel report you wanted to highlight?
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Okay. There's one other item on the consent agenda, and this is something that we do each year, and that is appoint a treasurer and deputy treasurer, Sherry Neidlinger as treasurer and Stefan Pittenger and Alicia Stapleton as deputy treasurers for the calendar year 2018, and those are bonded positions, yada, yada. Okay, do we have a motion and a second for the?
There's also on that, Madam Chair, a second recommendation under those individuals.
And that's what?
It's recommended that the administration be granted authority to execute any corporate resolutions required by the various banking depositories.
Right.
If there's no objection, I would move that the 4 items under the consent agenda be approved.
Second.
Okay, any comments or? Okay, all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, and now we have some old business to attend to, and that is we need to approve the vote that we took on December 18th. It's recommended that the board ratify the vote taken at the special board meeting on December 18th, 2017 to extend the employment contract between Fort Wayne Community Schools and Dr. Wendy Robinson. We held this special meeting on December 18th, 2017. A vote was held on the extension of Dr. Robinson's employment contract, but yours truly forgot to ask for a motion and a second. This brings to mind the phrase, "You had one job." To mollify this concern, we move that the actions taken by the board at the special board meeting on December 18th, 2017 regarding the contract extension be ratified and approved. Do we have a motion and a second?
I would so move, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
And
Second.
second.
And thank you, Maria and Ann. So all those in favor of ratifying the previous vote on December 18th, 2017, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Whew. Okay, now, new business. We have 4 items, and the first one is masonry restoration work at Arlington and Forest Park Elementary Schools. It's recommended that the board approve the following construction contracts for masonry restoration at Arlington Elementary and Forest Park Elementary Schools. Atlas Building Services, Inc. Has the bid for Arlington Elementary. The total contract is $147,647. Quality Masonry Company, Inc. has the bid, including 2 alternates at Forest Park Elementary, and that total contract is $156,100 for a total of $303,747. The project includes masonry restoration work at Arlington and Forest Park Elementary Schools. The project specifications were prepared by Martin Riley Architects and Engineers. This recommendation is within the program budget, which is funded from the Capital Projects Fund. Its project specifications require the work to be substantially completed by July 26, 2018, and Director of Facilities Darren Hess is available to answer any questions. And we can see on the back, there were 4 bidders for Arlington and 3 for Forest Park. Do I have a motion and a second?
I move we accept these bids.
Second.
Thanks, Glenna. Thanks, Steve. Any questions?
I have one question. It seems like on the second project, the masonry restoration at Forest Park Elementary, that Quality Masonry Company came in almost at half the amount of the other 2 companies. Are we getting just a really good deal?
Yeah, they're trying to fill their slate right now. It's very early in the season. That's why we want to make sure and get these out on the street. These projects are difficult to bid because they're very labor intensive. So, what some person thinks it takes 15 minutes to do, the other person would take, 30 minutes to do, doubles your bid. So, very labor intensive.
Great.
And Darren, do we have experience using each of these contractors previously?
We have not had the opportunity to work with Quality.
Okay.
We have worked with Atlas several times, but we have checked their references, and they seem to do a good job who we've talked to.
Okay, thanks.
And they have a full 100% performance and payment bond as well, too, so
Okay.
we do have insurance on them.
Okay. And, Glenna, to your point, the Arlington bid is similar to what you said. The one Atlas, the winning bidder is nearly half of, no, less than half of one of the others, so
Right.
kind of interesting.
They calculate their labor differently, but we'll get all these things done. Good job.
Okay, thanks. Okay, all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. And that brings us to the Blackhawk Middle School kitchen renovation. It's recommended that the board approve the following construction contracts for the renovation of the Blackhawk Middle School kitchen. And this is from Schenkel Construction, Inc. Includes the base bid of $1,009,000, 2 alternates, replace the cafeteria ceiling and lights, and paint the cafeteria. And then the controls from Automated Logic for $9,880. The project consists of site architectural, mechanical, plumbing, and electrical renovations to the existing kitchen and serving line to create a full cooking kitchen. Project also includes the replacement of the cooler, freezer, and other kitchen equipment. The existing building automation systems are proprietary, and Automated Logic is the single source vendor for this work. The project was designed by Primary Engineering, Inc. Funding for the project will be from a combination of Capital Projects Fund and Nutrition Services Fund. Work is anticipated to be substantially completed by July 20th, 2018. And Darren is here again to answer any questions. And on the back, you can see the 5 bids, all fairly close together, and Schinkel Construction, Inc. was selected. Do we have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Ann. Any questions?
What do we do with the old kitchen equipment? Is it still usable?
So Candace either uses another facility to replace an older piece of equipment, and then if it's found to be past its useful life for our kitchens, then we auction it off.
Okay.
And the last couple, Rod has had a chance to do them actually online.
Okay.
And garnish some pretty good bids.
All right, thank you.
So Blackhawk had their meals brought to them, is that correct? Are they
Correct. It was
still
the
do-
last middle school as a satellite kitchen.
Okay, that was my
Correct.
second question.
So that means all our high schools and then all our middle schools will have their own kitchens.
That is correct.
And does that include tolls?
Tolls, yes.
Okay.
They still have some food satellited at Tolls, but they do have a larger kitchen. But the middle schools, other than Tolls, and high
Okay.
schools, yes, full kitchen.
Okay. Any other questions? Thanks, Darren. Okay, all those in favor of this, approving this contract, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that brings us to the 2018 roof replacement project at Irwin Elementary School. And this is from the 2016 bond project. It's recommended that the board approve the following construction contracts for roofing at Irwin Elementary School. And this is from Dom Brothers, Inc. The base bid was $208,500. An alternate to replace reglet receivers for $9,800 for a total of $218,300. Replacements have been identified in our roof replacement plan, which provides for the replacement of all roof segments over a 25-year period. The project was designed by architects from Martin Riley. This recommendation is within the program budget, which is funded from the school building basic renewal, restoration, and safety project, which is the 2016 bond that Fort Wayne voters generously approved. Project specifications require the work to be substantially completed by August 14th, 2018. And Darren can again answer any questions. You can see there were 2 bidders, Dom Brothers being the bid selected. Do we have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Maria. Any questions? One question. So Darren, how on time are we with our 25-year roof replacement plan? I know we've used the bond projects to catch up, but
Correct. With our CPF this year for 2018, we're able to fully fund it. So at this point, we're caught up.
great. Okay.
I thought you were going to ask what a reglet was.
Well, that was my next question. But I had sort of forgotten about it. So what is a reglet?
I have no idea, no. It's a mechanically fastened receiver in the masonry joint to receive the flashing from the roof.
Oh,
membrane.
well, yeah, now I understand.
You knew what it was.
Draw a picture.
Do I have reglets on my house?
No.
Okay. Okay, just checking. But I do know what tuck pointing is. Okay. All those in favor of approving this contract signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and now we come to recommended that the board approve a 4-year contract with Discovery Education in the amount of $1,620,000 for professional learning services and development of STEM/STEAM curriculum and framework for the following schools. STEM programs at Irwin, which is previously approved, and Portage and Wayne, and STEAM, which is Whitney Young, Weiser Park, Memorial Park, and Southside. The board approved the Discovery Education contract for Irwin in August as the initial step in this partnership. The inclusion of the additional schools will solidify the K-12 pathways for STEM and STEAM in 2 feeder areas. Discovery Education will provide professional learning, educational resources, and digital content related to science, technology, engineering, and math, which is STEM, and then STEAM, of course, adds in arts. So the 4-year contract includes year 1, which is this year, correct, Dr. Robinson?
This year.
Year 1, visioning and building the foundations for STEM and STEAM. Year 2, building a foundation for project-based learning. Year 3, transdisciplinary teaching for vertical articulation among all grade levels and integrative instruction across content areas. Year 4, developing sustainability with transdisciplinary units and STEM/STEAM practices. This program supports Fort Wayne Community School District Goal 1, achieve and maintain academic excellence, and Goal 2, engage parents and the community. And Get Nichols, Assistant Superintendent for Elementary Education, is available to answer any questions.
Could I add some background information? We could have written a novelette, but we decided not to. One of the reasons this is in front of you is our opportunity we're having with the peer grant. And we're going to have, that's going to be the first board work session where we kind of lay out all the things that we're doing. But one of the reasons, if you notice, we're working in feeder patterns, is we're going to begin our work on language arts and math, and the science work won't really start this year. But we didn't want to miss the opportunity, since we had this relationship, not to begin to do some pilot type of work in a manageable number of schools, because we're going to have to walk and chew gum at the same time. So everybody's going to be focused on language arts and math. Notice it says professional learning, because what we intend to do is to have the same kind of cadre of people who help us do the language arts and math. We expect for these 2 feeder systems to help us develop what the STEM and STEAM looks like, so that when we get to deciding about the STEAM, the science curriculum and the math curriculum, we've got these schools who've been working through. In particular, one of the things we're interested in are the technology textbooks. We spend quite a bit of money on textbooks, and you know, the information, the day you buy them, it's outdated. So we're very strategically expanding this because of the availability of the peer grant allowing us to have the funding to do it. But the other part is so that we don't get too far behind in the science part. So I hope that made sense. So we were just really kind of working with Irwin to start, but Portage and Wayne, that's where the kids from Irwin are supposed to be going. And then we've talked about a little bit that whole magnet feeder pattern with the schools listed under the STEAM. So Get's kind of coughing. I wanted to give that background, but she really is kind of working through this and can answer details. But I wanted to explain why all of a sudden we started with Irwin and why did we expand it.
I'd move approval.
Second.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Glenna. Any questions? Yeah.
I did have are we anticipating enrollment changes as parents become aware of this flow of curriculum from school to school? I mean, are we going to see bumps up in enrollment in some of these schools? I mean, if I have a child in elementary, I want to make sure that, you know, I continue to ride this curriculum train through high school.
That's the intent. That's
So do we have space
yeah.
in those schools to accommodate that?
We do have, we have been growing Weiser Park, and so that school has been growing in numbers, and they continue to have a waiting list. And our goal is also to grow Irwin
Yeah.
in in that program.
Because I can see some excitement
Yes.
with
But directly
families.
Portage and Wayne also very specifically, because half of Wayne is New Tech, the other half isn't.
Right,
And so this is trying to strengthen, and Irwin being a magnet, you do want parents to be excited enough to follow it.
right.
So our concern was you start Irwin, but then if I'm a parent and you've done nothing with Portage and you've done nothing with Wayne, now we have not obviously had lots of conversations with teachers yet, because you had to prove us doing this. But the intent is exactly, Steve, that parents see that there is a pattern to get excited about, to have a different opportunity for your child.
And I can see these schools banding together at the next school choice fair to talk about what they anticipate happening in their buildings over the next couple of years.
This first year will be, really, I think we have an opportunity at the end of January.
Yes, sometime January through March, we're going to have an educational leadership retreat. So that will include some community members and board members, and we.
That's going to be for building folks in these schools?
That won't start until this summer.
Yeah.
I mean, but this thing that you've just described, this leadership,
The leadership retreat, we will start that.
Right, it'll be, first of all, what we've normally done is a leadership retreat is mainly for you and other community members to get a view. We are gonna work specifically with each of the schools. We've got to go to the schools and get teams at the schools. So our process is not to have a meeting with them. Ours is just to go in, sit down with them. We're working with FWA about how we are gonna do a lot of this teacher selection process. So that's more of a, we're ready to start, here we come, here's what we're trying to do.
okay,
But Steve, we're doing both,
all right.
okay?
And then as we emphasize these areas of study, how are we doing in finding qualified teachers who can teach these very technical classes?
That's what the professional learning is for, is to teach the teachers that we have in the buildings to be capable of developing these transdisciplinary processes for developing their curriculum. So it's not about teaching a STEM curriculum, it's more about teaching teachers how to teach with an inquiry-based foundation, project-based learning, and that kind of thinking, problem-solving thinking, then transfers into the other content areas. So we plan to provide professional learning for our teachers there in the buildings.
Okay, so you're not looking for like a qualified math teacher to just teach the math. You want all the teachers to be teaching a little bit of math, a little bit of science, a little bit of technology or engineering?
Well, it's more about
And then,
taking real-world problems and using the inquiry method and project-based learning to teach about math and science, social studies, and English language arts.
okay, so the kids will pick a problem to solve and then work
Yes.
on it from all these different angles, is what you're
Right,
saying?
right.
Okay, great.
But I think another answer to your question is, as we explain what we're doing with the peer grant, we have got to go find qualified math and science teachers. We've got to have a process for encouraging people to come here to teach, because a lot of the STEM, the STEAM, all of this is based upon having some knowledge of math and science, even if you're trying to get all teachers to understand how to put it together. There's a shortage of math and science teachers. So part of what we're going to talk to you about is something we're trying to do with the grant, is to see how we can grow our own, we can encourage, can we work with other organizations, because we have a shortage of math and science teachers. So it's both pieces, but those are the conversations that we're going to have. This is really, we're trying to strike while the iron is hot. The opportunity I was kind of talking about in January, there's a school in Florida, and we'll get you some more information on it, that they have done this STEM implementation district-wide. So we want to kind of send the people down to see how it worked. So Get will get you some more information, and we'll have a session to talk about it. But this is just to make sure we can get, being honest also, the pricing that we got with the Irwin deal. As the new year rolls over, we don't want to have increased costs. So we brought the whole thing to you, even though we need to talk some more about details. This was just building on what we had already done with Irwin.
If this is approved, if a parent wants to do a little bit of research right now on what they think, this is going to mean, what kind of program, I mean, what might change for their child, where can they go to do that? I mean, Discovery is Education, first of all, is connected to the Discovery Channel, correct?
Right.
Okay.
I think one of the.
But do they have a website or?
They do, and there are a lot of resources within
Okay.
that website. But what they will do with Fort Wayne Community Schools is help us plan our STEM and STEAM focus. So it's not a cookie cutter program that will be developed in their website. It's something that they will work with us based upon what our goals are for our magnet program and based on what our goals are for what STEM and STEAM will look like for Fort Wayne Community Schools and how it will serve our community and our students' needs.
And one of the things planned is a parent night, because you have to tell the parents, you got to explain to the students. Now, the only magnets really involved in this are the Weiser, the STEAM part, and then Irwin. So our intent is not Portage and Wayne won't be magnets. And part of what, when Get's saying they're going to help us, what we're hoping to make certain happens in the Portage and Wayne field, well, really in all of them, is that parents and students will see a ramping up of options and how science and math is delivered. And so when you say about what options parents might see differently, it does circle back around to what Get started with, is how are they being taught? But it's still going to have to be state standards. I mean, they're still going to have to focus on what it is. So the biggest issue, I think, we're going to have to explain to teachers as well as parents and students that it's more about the environment you're in. You're still going to get a certified curriculum taught about science and math. Just how you demonstrate your knowledge may be different, and that's what Discovery is going to help us use. And obviously, we're trying to take advantage of all their resources around technology and research. So I think that leadership forum is to give an opportunity for the board to have that conversation with the principals at the school, with FWA, those kind of people, and then we'll go specifically to each of the schools and talk to teachers and students about what it means for them. So that's why it's taken 4 years. This isn't an overnight thing. So this first year is visioning and building.
Okay, and then my final question is, how flexible will it be? I mean, if we are wanting parents to get excited about their kids following a certain track so they can end up in the right high school, how important is it going to be that they start in the lower levels in order to be able to enter those programs later? So the flexibility, if you're already going in one track, to change your mind and try something else, how will that work? Have you guys worked that out? Or
I think
do you
the answer-
anticipate?
Well, if I could answer that, my understanding is that this is a more method of teaching
Right.
and presentation. In other words, all schools are going to be teaching the same content, the same standards, Indiana standards. But this is more a method of delivery, correct? Inquiry-based and project-based learning.
Okay, so it's not like it's a prerequisite that you go to this middle school in order to go to this high school. I'm just trying to figure out how
Right.
rigid are the tracks?
Absolutely.
Right.
And so, and you're exactly right, there's a lot of flexibility there. Just because you don't have to have gone to Portage
like you could change
to take advantage of what you're going to, the program you're going to get at Wayne.
But our intent at the end, remember I said that we're jump-starting with these schools because we're not really going to be focusing on our science adoption right now. So what we hope is that you have to raise the standard of what all kids are going to have to do with science everywhere. And that if they're in part of these schools, what's the extra they get? Just like what's the extra you get if you go to Weiser? Because Weiser teaches standards, but then what happens at Weiser that's not happening every place else? But we really are interested in them showing us what everybody ought to be doing, and then they're going to have to work to go over and above that piece, which is why we're kind of pacing this out and trying to be very deliberate about it.
Does this become even more important given the fact that the graduation standards are moving upward?
Absolutely, absolutely. And what we are talking about here at the district, which is what we'll talk about with the Dana Center and some of the other work, when we're looking at graduation now, we have to be having that conversation in third grade. Because some of the pathways the state's trying to put in place, if you don't start that early, making sure that kids have enough math, have enough science, it's almost impossible for them to have options. So that's, we're trying to use as many people to help us figure out where has this worked, what are the kinds of conversations we should be having. These aren't new concepts. Everybody across the country is trying to do this. But you're absolutely correct, Steve. It's something that we've got to jump. Even though they haven't finally decided what they're doing, this is the direction they're heading.
What was the name of that Florida school that's kind of a model you're going to learn from?
Santa Rosa Schools
Santa Rosa
in Pensacola.
and Pensacola. Okay.
But their model won't be, we won't look just
Won't
like
be
Santa
exact.
Rosa, but
No,
they're,
our needs in our community are different, so.
Does Discovery, I know some organizations do this, does Discovery Education have their own, like, workshops or conferences for teachers and that participate in their programs?
They do. They
Okay.
have conferences for
Good.
teachers to attend. They also have symposiums and competitions for students to
Oh, great.
participate in. So it's a huge network of opportunities for our students to see STEM at work in other areas of the country, too.
Okay. Right. Okay. Good questions. Anything else?
So moved on the recommendation, if you need one.
I think we did that. But I don't want to make that mistake again. But I think we
already
did
have
that.
one?
We do.
All right,
did
good. Don't need that one then.
Okay.
We
So,
just
woo,
discussed it a
but
while.
Way to test me.
Yes.
Way to test me. So all those in favor of approving this contract with Discovery Education, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
and if I could add, they'll all be here that night. We have the Leadership Institute, so all the folks at Discovery who are helping to do this. And what they've also done, there's a woman, her name is Cindy Moss, Dr. Cindy Moss. She's been instrumental nationally and internationally helping people put this together. So she's somebody you could look up to, Cindy Moss, M-O-S-S, Dr. Cindy Moss. So our intent is to have them here so that you could ask them these kinds of questions.
Great.
And they can bring examples of what they've done and what networks and what opportunities there'll be.
Kat, did you give us a date for that meeting?
We don't have a date set
Not yet.
but we will let you know.
Okay.
You're thinking late February, early March? Is that what somebody said, or did I just make that up?
No, it's somewhere between February and March that we will start looking at that.
Okay.
Okay. So, like I said, that brings us to the end of the meeting, so any comments? Steve?
My only comment is that the Indiana legislature is in session, and that means get ready for a barrage of all kinds of bills to be introduced that could affect our school in particular and our families.
Yep. Can I go back?
It's dead. It's
Well, she
dead, Steve.
reminded me that and I know we've had communication between us, but I would encourage other people here or listening to us. There is a proposal that would prevent us and any other school district in Indiana from starting until late in August, and that just doesn't work. It's being proposed by those who run amusement parks because they don't want to lose customers and students as employees, and that's not good enough to have that bill passed. I think what legislators don't understand, especially since the introduction of playoff football, that so many students are either rehearsing for band or rehearsing for football. And so we have a lot of folks, a lot of young people in our high schools in early August. And so this would not help that process by delaying the start of school until I think it would be the, third or fourth Monday of the month in August. So I would urge parents and other people to send a note to their senators in particular on that piece
Right,
of
the
legislation.
bill's in the Senate Education Committee. Now, as of now, I think the indication is it's not going to be heard. But as we know,
Things can change.
bills have a way of popping up at the last minute in strange places.
Right.
So, yeah. Thanks.
I have no comment.
Okay. Dr. Robinson?
I will be in Indy tomorrow, along with Phil Downs, Superintendent of Southwest. We've been asked to serve on a committee put together by the State Board of Education. The intent is to try to work through some details for the pathways that passed the State Board recently. But what also is connected to that, the State Board of Education on Wednesday is hearing a proposal for changes to the A to F process and procedure, which was developed without any input from school-based folks or the Department of Education. Along with that, just as I was coming down, Janet copied for me out in the Indy Star, Representative Baining is trying to push through changes in diplomas. So my intent, it's supposed to be a fairly lengthy meeting tomorrow. You can't really separate all of those things. So at least we do have some superintendents from across the state that have been asked to be a part of. So that's where I'll be tomorrow. And what we'll try to do is to make sure that we keep you as informed as possible. But one of the other things that I would encourage you as board members to really push is the seeming school board of ed at the state level making decisions and plans without input. And very rarely are school board members a part of any of that. We haven't even, as superintendents, people on the ground every day, been a part of it. But there's nothing more critical than how we're going to be labeled through the A to F. There's nothing more critical than what kind of diplomas you're going to have kids strive for. And then when you put the pathways together, the sad part is right now those three topics don't align. They should, but what's out in print doesn't align in a way that we as a district will be able to pull that off. I think one of the most telling things is that for the first time in my history, my 40-something years in education, public, private, parochial, charter, no matter what school district you are classified as, everyone is universally against what's been proposed. That's almost unheard of. And so when you look at what's being put together, the business community supposedly wants this, but I don't think the business community truly understands what is being proposed, and it's happening so quickly. We had superintendents from all over the state testify. 2 days worth of testimony, and it's still past the pathways. There are no details as to what it's supposed to look like. And I'm just afraid on Wednesday, they're doing the same thing with A to F. And there are some very specific, I'll give you an example. They talked about a balance or a wellness or whatever it is kind of category. I'm trying not to even remember it. But it's based upon science and social studies test scores. Now, when I think about well-balanced, I'm not thinking about science or social studies test scores. This proposal also increases the percent you have to get as a cut score on the standardized tests you're going to take. It just goes, we spend all this time talking about testing, we're going 20 years backwards. And some of what I believe are the good things that we had going for us in Indiana, we're losing sight of the fact that everything wasn't wrong. So obviously when I come back, I'll make sure that I have a report for you. But the good thing is that the 4 superintendents in this county and really Northeast Indiana, the superintendents are all talking, and we're trying to figure out next steps as to how we inform our community. Some are holding parent meetings, but I'm not sure what we'd hold a parent meeting to say at this point. And I've got to have enough information to tell parents what it means. But we're talking about kids in 7th grade right now will be the first ones to live under this. But some of the provisions will impact kids that are already in high school. So I just think it's just so much happening. We'll try to keep you informed. All of us are reading everything we can. Faye's gone down, others have gone down. Tracy's been a part of it. But it's all happening so quickly, really, honestly, without public input. And we should all be concerned about that.
And if you are interested in finding out more about this, particularly as a parent of a child that's 7th grade or younger, there's a good article about it in Chalkbeat, if you just do a search for A to F grading. And I think the biggest thing that you mentioned, Dr. Robinson, is that nobody really knew this was coming. There has been absolutely no transparency, no public input from parents, educators. This seems to all be coming from the state board and its staff. And the biggest shock to me was that the high school grading scale, the proposal is there is absolutely no metric for growth
Yeah,
in it.
they discount growth.
In fact, and graduation rate becomes 50% of your school grade. And test proficiency, its importance goes way up. And as we've said before, and I've read this even from the Fordham Institute, which is a very conservative site that covers education, but growth is probably the metric that measures most accurately what a school is doing and what a teacher is doing with a student that year. And to have no growth metric for high school, I don't know, I just think that's malpractice. So that's concerning, but I am glad to hear that even though it's after the fact, kind of, but they have you and Phil Downs on a State Board of Education committee, and you know, once you get to the table, sometimes you can be heard about other things too, so, because it's all
connected.
well, yes, it is all connected,
Yeah.
all connected.
So I will keep you informed, and I think one of the things that we're going to have to decide as an administration and a board is how do we get this message out without scaring people to death, but to give them accurate information, because we were talking about just the discovery part, just the contract you just approved for discovery. Well, that is focused on benefiting kids and helping them think. This whole process, there's not a single part of the pathway, A to F, or the diplomas that really is focused on kids. Because there will be groups of students, you know, in particular our special ed students, kids with English as a second language, kids that just learn a little bit slower, they take time to mature. It's an either-or kind of a lockstep.
Yeah.
You were talking about flexibility. I can't even begin to imagine that we will be depressing students. Our job is to pump them up to get them to see the art of the possible. Can you imagine if you come in the middle of the year and a pathway is already locked in, or come from out of state where they don't have pathways? So the biggest concern we should have is that, ask the question, well, who is this for? Because when you peel back and look at all the things, and Chalkbeat does a really good job of trying to anytime you can get on Chalkbeat, they are pretty good about putting it in English so anybody can basically understand it.
Yep.
It's scary, it really is.
Yep.
So, thanks for listening to me rant. I'll rant more when I come back.
I was going to say, save that rant for
I'll save it for
Indianapolis,
tomorrow.
too. Okay, any other comments? Okay, oh, and by the way, don't forget to, is it called Doodle? Don't forget to go on Doodle.
Yes.
Board members, and indicate your date, because I still have to do that, I think.
I did that.
Yeah, and indicate the dates that you are open for workshops here in the next couple months. Okay, so,
Move for adjournment.
very good.
Second.
All those in favor of adjourning, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Microphone is open for anyone who wishes to address the board.